the birthplace of the Bohemian Revolution. From Cowork 591 Studios, we are the Bohemian Underground.
Way underground.
With producer Blake Tempus and co-host Dale Rueber. I am Jim Gillespie, and this is the Jesup News for May 4th, 2025. From the voice of Buchanan County, we are sponsored by Mickey D's Pizza and Lobster. The Farrells are kind sponsors of this podcast. Include them at your wedding, graduation, or festival plans. Don't wait, their schedule is filling up for 2025. Another sponsor who's been with us since the birth of the SBAC is Derek's Repair, located in Jesup, Iowa. Contact Derek Marty for your car repair needs. Also, check out the podcast with our friend Bubba Seaman, and he calls his podcast What Is Up. He had Mark Woodley on, a sports reporter for KWWL, although they talk about his weather reports as well.
He was Sportscaster of the Year, I think, a year or so ago in the state of Iowa.
He was?
Yeah, he got a nice award, which is interesting because he only works weekends. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't know how he makes a living, honestly, because he's really not on very much. But that's what we would ask you. How do you make any money being a weekend guy? But
also, check out our events that we'll talk about later on in the show. Mm-hmm. And maybe we'll have this lady on one of the events. We're fortunate to have Courtney Frush with us tonight. Courtney, thank you for coming.
Nice to see you again.
Yeah.
So Courtney plays at Von Mauer over in Cedar Falls. Mm-hmm. She teaches piano lessons here in town, has been involved in music since 5th grade.
Third grade.
Third grade, forgive me. Third grade.
No, you're fine.
So Courtney, tell us how you got started in the piano.
Well, 4 of us, 8 girls. So I grew up in a family of 8 girls, no boys. 4 of us were adopted into that family. The oldest 4 were already taking lessons with Maxine Oldridge here in town, and
she just had a birthday. Did you know that?
She did yesterday.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yesterday. So that was happy birthday, Maxine. You know, and my parents became interested in us 4 taking lessons as well. Mm-hmm. We were interested as well. It wasn't entirely just a one-sided adventure. But Maxine was full, always. So my older sisters began teaching us lessons. I was 8, and I'm the second to youngest. Not sure that my youngest sister started right away, but my oldest sister, the oldest of us 8, Cassie, started teaching us, I believe, and then Kayla took over on that. So, yeah, it's kind of where it got started. It's just a family thing.
Say there's 6 of you at one time or whatever playing the piano in your home. How many pianos did you have?
Nope, we only had 1.
Did you have a schedule that you had to keep, or
honestly,
time
I
slot,
think we just did very well with taking turns, practicing. Sometimes a chore, so no rush.
Yeah.
Yeah, to get to it, but
so you just kind of worked it in as you could. And, and then were you had to perform? Did you have like piano contests or anything? Did you do any of those kind of things? Or
so in elementary school, we started with just like recitals. Mm-hmm. We'd go to Gallagher Blue Dorn in the spring for a recital every year. We did Dorian Music Festival at Luther College. State piano contest. A few of us have played for church services. I did a very short period of time at the Presbyterian church in town. Yeah. Around Christmas, some of us would go play at the nursing home in LaPorte City. My grandpa would get all of us grandkids together and we'd go do that. Yeah. So lots of ways that we kind of shared that with other people.
One of my greatest memories as a teacher, I was responsible for setting up the Veterans Day program, and I really loved the music of Shokin Farewell, and I'd never heard it on the piano. I'd heard it on the violin or the fiddle, but I asked Cassie to play it for me or for us on the piano, and it still moves me to even think about it today.
And what was the piece?
A Shokin Farewell. Okay. I'll play it for you after the show. Maybe Blake will play a little bit of it without getting us kicked off YouTube. YouTube is a little more litigious than anybody else.
Okay,
but let's go on here. So Cassie got you into it.
I believe she's the one that started teaching us, yes, but they, you know, all of the girls were very, very good at playing the piano, very skilled. It's quite a talent, and for them to share it with us was wonderful, and I'm sure took a lot of patience.
Oh yeah.
Here's a quiz. Here's a quiz for Dale. How many different oh, forgive me. What are they called?
Those little white black things?
Those little white black things out there on the piano.
Oh, geez. I wasn't sure where you were heading with that either.
I know him. Yeah. No, you got Yellock door with a
key.
Hey. So
Yeah. How many
keys on a piano?
On a keyboard. Yeah.
50. No, there are 88. 88.
88. Really?
Yeah. Ebony and ivory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are half of them black? Are they 44 and 44?
You know, I should have done some research so I could be prepared to answer that question
She
for you.
didn't know we'd have hard music questions for her.
That is,
yeah, I don't know, because some you have the black, and there's something. I bet there's gotta be more.
I don't think it's all not. I don't.
Yeah,
Blake, check that out for us, will you? How many black keys on a piano keyboard, please?
That'll keep him awake.
Yeah.
Darn right, because
Not every key has a black key as a
that's what I was
sharp.
thinking,
So
yeah.
if you're gonna play E sharp, it's actually F.
36.
36.
36.
He's got it already. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then
Very
88
nice.
minus 36 would be what?
52.
Too late in the day for that.
52.
Well, we
Yes.
have to put him to the test.
Yes. All right, so let's go on here. Now the math class is done. So Cassie got you into it. Then your sister Kayla took over, right?
Yes.
And tell us about that a little bit. Which one was the evil teacher?
Well, I think
Taskmaster.
bless their heart for taking on that at all. Cassie's the oldest, so a little bit tougher. Kayla, very easygoing, but wonderful. She's a very good teacher. She's amazing with children in general.
Yeah.
She's pretty well known in town for her lessons that she teaches. She's always got a wait list.
Do you remember your first song you ever played?
The first song I ever played, I don't.
I would bet you, though, she played Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, because everybody does, it seems like. So.
It seemed like the lesson books, when you start with your very first lesson book, a lot of the songs that are in there are not known songs.
No, they'll give them a name,
So,
and you're like, The Happy
yep.
Prince, but it's just da-da-da-da-da-da.
In the lesson one book that I start my students on, it's I believe it's Firefly is the first song.
I've heard that.
Harper played that yesterday. My daughter.
Really?
At the spring concert, her first time performing. Yeah, she did wonderfully.
So do you teach your own kids then, too? Or do you let someone else teach them?
I teach them.
Uh-huh.
We haven't started Oliver yet. He's not ready for that yet.
Oh, yeah.
He does like to come up and hit the keys, or sit next to me when I'm playing, but
Yeah.
he doesn't like to sit there for too long. Harper is 8, and she started a little bit later than the rest of my students, but she just loves it. She gets really excited for her piano lessons.
Yeah.
She would get one every day if we could do that.
Yep.
And then Timothy has taken a couple lessons from me, but he's just not really got the strong interest. So, and they have to practice in order to make progress.
Sure.
So
I debated whether or not to take piano lessons. I don't have a piano at home though. So
You do?
I don't.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
No.
yeah. Well-
No. So I don't know if it'd be valuable. I mean, so if I came and learned the piano from you or from Kayla or whoever, I mean, I don't see. I couldn't practice at home.
Yeah, you need to be able to practice.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people are halted by that because hauling a piano, like if you're to find one and then, that's quite a chore. It's quite a job to haul a piano. They're very, very heavy, they're very expensive if you find one brand new, but if you find one online, a lot of times people will give them away for free just because they're so hard to move.
Yeah. I've got a great story about
It
that.
actually,
I
it
actually
kept
have
me
one
from
like
playing
that,
the
so-
piano. I think for a good 10 years, I didn't play at all.
Really?
Yeah.
For 10 years you didn't play.
No.
There was a movie, or I think it was true, where maybe it was like in a concentration camp, a person made a piano keyboard on paper or on cloth or something, drew it in, and then that's how they were concert pianists before they got into the concentration camp or whatever.
Oh,
and they
my.
would practice on that piece of
Yeah.
cloth. They couldn't hear the sound, but they had the music in their head, and so that's how they kept their fingers going to play the different songs. Or the pieces they knew how to play. And so now she's looking at me like he's making that up.
Yeah.
I don't think I am.
I
So,
just
no.
find it
Yeah.
incredible when people can take the sound and just play it on the piano. I could not play by ear. Never have been able to. I have to have the music in front of me. I've got to read the music to play it.
I have one grandson who
But it helps if you know the song, of course.
plays pretty much by ear, and he was
It's just
hard
incredible.
to take lessons because he didn't want to
Yeah.
take the time to learn to sight read. He just, play it for me, then he can play it. And so he didn't last too long in piano lessons, but his younger brother is doing really well. So
Well, it's very important in the lessons I teach that students learn how to read the music. So if my student has that desire to sit down and learn a song by how it's going to sound, then I take it a step further and I have them compose it on paper.
Sure.
Because reading music has so many benefits, but it is an incredible talent.
So is playing piano,
by
taking
ear.
lessons, is it still a popular thing for people to get their kids involved with, as it always has been, or?
I think in Jesup it is.
Mm-hmm.
It is very big in Jesup. I know when I first advertised that I was going to start teaching lessons, I had a lot of people interested right away.
Okay.
And like I said, my sisters always got waiting lists.
Mm-hmm.
They were going to do the piano with the rec program here in Jesup.
Okay.
It hasn't kicked off yet.
Okay.
So, but I did volunteer to join that. Just not really sure where we're at with it, but there are definitely a lot of parents interested around here. I think a lot of people are held up on, well, I need to get a piano in my home.
Yeah.
Well, Courtney, you said you went 10 years
Yep.
and didn't play the piano. So from what age to what age was that?
Well, 20. I think I was 20. 30? I started playing again when I was 30.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
32 now. And it's not like riding a bike. You can't just...
I was going to ask you how
It's-
long
whew.
it took.
I'd say it took me a good year before I got to where I'm at now, and I don't play as well as I did when I was in college.
Can you play until your fingers hurt? I mean, is that a real thing, or?
No,
No, it doesn't. Okay.
my fingers will be sore the next day after playing 4 hours at
That's what I was
Von
okay.
Mar.
So it is an athletic, I mean, you do feel it in the
Yeah,
muscles
but I
of your
think that
fingers.
also it helps stretch my hands out.
So speaking of Von Mar, so you play 4 hours a time, 4 days a week.
Yeah, and I do get breaks.
Okay.
They actually ask that I take breaks, and they're very wise.
Yeah.
Get up, walk around,
Yeah.
But so rewind back to being younger and taking lessons for the first time. It definitely was something that felt more like a chore.
Yeah.
But it was clear that it was going well, and it was something that I would continue doing. So I'd say about in high school is when I started like really finding music that I was able then to play at the level I was at. Music that I enjoyed playing, like pop music, rock music,
Sure.
love songs, kind of whatever was. And I could sit and play for hours and enjoy it. So that's kind of where I started to like really fall in love with playing the piano. And then when I went on to college for a year, that's how I spent a lot of my time as well. The Von Mar thing, and I can play whatever I would like to play as long as it's not outrageous.
Sure.
Right.
They want stuff that people recognize, that people enjoy listening to, which is great because I don't like to play classical music. That is definitely not my favorite thing. So
And that's a long time thing with that store, right? Because I can
it
remember
is.
when my kids were little going through that store and
And
someone
I'm
was
sure
there
it's
playing
how
the
they
piano.
started. I mean, it's a family-owned business still. They originated in Davenport, I think, was the first store. And I'm sure that's always been a thing, although
Okay.
I didn't
Yeah,
get a
it's a
history
long
rundown
time.
on that.
A
But
long time thing.
it's awesome. And they want the live music all the time. But, I have like a full-time job. So, yeah, the 4 days a week, it usually is the 16 hours a week then is all I do.
Is it?
But I don't think I could do more. It's a lot.
I think 4 hours would be a lot, yeah.
Are there other piano players?
Right now in Cedar Falls there aren't, but there are a couple people that have, applied and interviewed. So, but people just love it. The difference between like the recorded music versus live piano, they love it. And they don't really care what you're playing.
Now, did you have to give a demonstration as part of your interview?
Yeah.
Or just sit and play?
Yep, I had to audition, kind
So
of in
what'd
a
you
sense.
play for 'em?
My first song was You Raise Me Up. And sometimes if I'm kind of having a little bit of a rough day or I need to relax before I play, my first song will be You Raise Me Up. It's a really beautiful song, and it's, I'd say, probably my most well played. Don't have it memorized.
So,
Did you ever sing along with while you play? You ever play
I
and
don't,
sing?
but
Oh.
so You Raise Me Up, I've actually had a lady that was shopping in the store. She got a little bit emotional when I was playing that song, a few tears. But she started singing very loudly. It was really pretty. She had a great singing voice. It was unexpected. It took a lot for me to keep playing. Besides church, I've never played while people are singing, but I don't. That is a talent I would die to have, but I cannot sing and play.
I performed a couple times, and Mr. Emick played the piano for me.
Okay.
And Mr. Emick could play at my pace. I mean, I would ask him, what pace do you want me to sing at? And he said, no, you sing, and I'll play at your pace. Yeah. And it amazed me. So when that lady was singing, did you play at her pace then, or she sang at your pace?
I am not an experienced accompanist. My sister Cassie accompanies a lot. Actually, I think all of my older sisters are pretty fairly experienced with accompanying people, singing, or I did play the piano for jazz band. I think that's just something that takes experience.
Yeah.
I always thought that Mr. Emick was a wonderful piano player.
Yes.
I thought he had a lot of skill.
I think he's just very talented in the music department in general. Yeah, absolutely.
If they were to come to Von Maur, what are your top 10 songs that you would play?
Well, sometimes that changes, but most recently I've been playing a couple of Beatles songs. Let It Be is my favorite.
Oh, I love that song.
Favorite song that I play. I play Yesterday, and I Love Her. I absolutely love playing that song.
That's a beautiful song.
And then I said, You Raise Me Up is definitely number one, for sure. The Clocks. So my favorite composer of music is Lori Line.
Okay, I've heard her at Gallagher Blue Dorn before. I have a lot of her work.
Yeah, she performs here, I think in Cedar Falls once a year to church.
Yeah, she comes to Gallagher Blue Dorn.
Does she?
Used to, and I know but before COVID, I think she was there almost every year.
Yeah, she composes music very well. Piano solos.
Yeah.
So a lot of what she writes. I Will Always Love You.
You ever have anyone that come to you that start singing with that? That'd be a tough one to join in with.
It would. No, not yet. That one's fairly new. I recently brought that. I'd say that would be one that I'd play on a Wednesday when there's not very many shoppers yet.
Yeah.
So kind of a little bit of practice time.
Yeah.
On Eagle's Wings, so I do bring a couple of more churchy songs in, but people still love it.
Right.
I like to play on Eagle's Wings. How many are we at? 6?
Seven.
Let's keep you track. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I really like to play. What is it called? It's a Sting song.
Too modern for us, probably. So.
Some of that hippie stuff.
Freebird. I absolutely love to play Freebird too.
Really? Wow.
That's not Sting.
Yeah,
but I just can't think of the name of that song. We'll just say it's a song by Sting.
Okay.
So that's 9.
I love to play Freebird though. It's so beautiful on the piano. There's a part that I skip because it's just too. I would say just too big of a sound for the environment. They kind of want it to be a little bit more of a soft feel. And I like Stairway to Heaven as well.
When they write music for children to play, do they take into account that their hands are not as big when they compose it and that's all?
Most definitely.
Yeah. I read once about, and I can't remember the composer, but he wrote a piano piece that only he could play because he had extraordinarily large hands. And so he tried to write a piece that only he could play because of the size of his hands. So which is kind of interesting. Yeah.
Speaking of compose, have you ever composed anything yet, Courtney?
I haven't, but I would like to try. Again, I cannot play by ear, so I'd have to do a lot of research.
Yeah.
But I've kind of gone over that in my head a little bit. I'd really like to do that sometime. There's a lot of songs that I'd like to play that I can't find. And, Lori Line, again, composes amazing music. I wish I could... Everything I've played would be written by her.
Right.
But if you find a song that you want to play, it's not always composed super well. So, yeah, I'd like to try.
Tell people when you perform at Von Maur so they can come over and watch it.
There is a seating area, but I get nervous if you let me know you're there.
Stand behind you, right? So or bring your lawn chairs and sit in the I don't know, underwear aisle or whatever they have over there. I don't know.
Yeah, so, but I play on Wednesdays, typically over the lunch hour. I'll start at 10 or 11 a.m., and then I'll play until 2 or 3 p.m. And then Fridays, I start after the lunch hour, around 1 or 2 until 5:30. They don't like it if I play until close, because then people don't want to leave.
Uh-huh.
So usually about half hour before close, they'll shut it down. And then Saturdays from 3 or 3:30 to 6, because I do deliver the mail before I go play on Saturdays. That one's a little tight. And then Sunday afternoons.
Okay.
They're not open for a whole lot for super long on Sundays. So you could probably catch me there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also teach my lessons on Sundays typically. The lazy day of the week is my busiest day of the week.
Right.
Well, I think it's nice.
Yeah.
Somebody's working, so, and,
But yeah, I don't mind people coming to listen to me, honestly. I had a performance anxiety that was super strong, even though I did perform as a child up until, the age I'm at now, but playing at Von Maur has definitely helped me overcome that
Right.
if you
extremely.
had a piece that you thought was difficult and you wanted to learn, would it help you? Like if you're on your mail route, if you had a CD and it played it over and over again, would
So
that
I
help
actually
you?
do that with some music that I don't know, but I want to try to play it.
Okay.
And I think that's really important to do anyways. You need to know the song,
Oh, yeah. So that is
So I
helpful.
do.
then.
I listen to all kinds of stuff all day. I listen to you guys when I'm delivering the mail. But yeah, I listen to music that I need to learn better.
Okay. I think that would be helpful.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And not only that, but I feel like I'd like to know a little bit about the people whose songs I'm playing. So that's something I'm working on right now too, is just becoming more familiar with the artists.
Yeah. Well, I think it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad. To me, I've seen people playing piano on it before, years ago, but I'm glad that they're still doing it and that somebody I know is playing there. So.
Well, it's neat. I'm gonna have to get over there.
I want to buy some new clothes. They sell men's clothes. I haven't been in there for
Yep,
years.
they sell women's clothes, men's clothes, so they have different departments. Juniors, kids, boys, girls. They have shoes.
Okay.
They have like a gift section. They have handbags, just all this stuff that a department store would have.
Okay.
They have a few toys. My kids came to listen to me for a very short time one Sunday, and the first question was, do they sell toys? Can we go look at those?
Yeah.
Yeah. They hear me play at home. They're not really super interested.
We both could spruce up our outfits a little bit. We should go buy something. So.
Yeah, I work at a tuxedo company. We might be able to buy or borrow a couple tuxedos.
Yeah, we could walk in there dressed with tuxedos.
We could.
We're not buying any of this stuff.
Stand next to the piano on each side. Really send people away
That would
from
be
you
nice.
then, Courtney.
Yeah.
So Courtney, is there anything with that? If they're interested in their children taking lessons from you, do you have room for other lessons right now?
I do. I want to add 3 to 4 more. I'm pretty flexible with I travel to a couple students. I go to Waterloo. It's rural Waterloo for a couple of my students. And that works out great.
Oh, sure.
Yes, I do have room. And I just absolutely love how rewarding it is to see my students make progress and excel. And they all enjoy it so much. Love piano lesson time.
That's great.
So, I definitely want to keep doing it. It was something I wasn't sure on for quite some time.
Yeah.
I thought about doing it, but I didn't do it. But now I'm really happy I did.
How can people contact if they want to, Courtney?
Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Or they could send you an email.
Send me an email and we'll contact Courtney
I can
for you if you're
definitely,
interested.
Facebook is primarily how I communicate with setting up stuff like that.
All
so.
right.
And I don't have a different page for the piano stuff. It's just my Facebook.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Is there anything else you want to tell us, Courtney, before we get you out of here?
Do we want to talk about the academics?
As far as
How it benefits kids academically?
yes,
Oh, sure,
yes.
sure.
Oh, wow.
That's kind of a lot of what I wanted to bring forth today, just to kind of share a little bit. I know people kind of have the general idea that students that take piano lessons or music in general or learn how to read music have a tendency to do better in math and reading. But some are skeptical. I think some parents stop or maybe kind of just have a flip-flopped idea on that their children wouldn't do well in music if they don't do well in math or reading. And I think it's very much the reverse of that. Music is math, if you think about it.
Oh, yeah.
Fractions,
Yeah.
rhythm counting. While you are reading music, you are doing math the whole time.
I will never forget this as long as I live. The coffee house, they had the coffee house at school. Marquise taught Clint Fortier. I don't know if you know Clint. He lives locally.
I think I listened that year.
Taught Clint Fortier how to play the piano, and Clint played like the Big Bopper. I mean,
It was Jerry Lee Lewis.
it was Jerry Lee Lewis.
Yeah.
Yes, Jerry Lee Lewis.
I
Thank
remember
you.
that because of the pants he was wearing. They were pretty wild.
Yeah.
But, well, I think he played great ball.
Yeah, I think he did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he performed a lot. He used that skill, but Keezer taught him how to play.
Actually, they were.
Well, he is very musically talented.
Oh yeah, but his family were Methodists. They came to the Methodist church, and the pastor found out he was playing piano and asked him if he'd like to play at church. So he played great balls during the church service.
Oh my goodness sakes.
So Reverend Bogue asked him if he wanted to play.
I don't know if it wasn't Reverend Bogue, I don't think, but one of the pastors, found out he was, and that's what he played. So he did an excellent job, and I think maybe it was the only song he knew. I don't know,
Yeah.
but it's amazing because he had a band at Farmers Day once that he was fronting, and beautiful singing voice, and very like she said, very musically inclined.
Right. So academically,
Yeah. That's a majority of what I wanted to talk about today. Yeah, but just like you would go to the gym to work out to make your muscles stronger, the brain works the same way. So I think students that do participate in music, and it's not necessarily just reading music, but listening to music, they're learning any form of music, they're exercising that muscle. The rhythm. But yeah, like fractions, time signatures, rhythm, counting. You're doing math the whole time that you're doing that. So they do say that students that take lessons tend to have higher scores. But there's also been studies done that they think students do better on tests if they're listening to music while they take tests versus when they took the test not listening to music.
Yeah.
I definitely don't know a whole lot about how the brain works, but I think is it our left side that's more of like the creative, emotional side of our brain, and the right side is like the analytical, logical thinking. So if you think of like music and math, right, one side of the brain is what's gonna do that, and then music. So in my understanding of that is that what you're doing is the whole brain is working together, then one side's in tune with the other. So yeah. And I didn't dig very deep when it came to that, but in my general understanding of it is by practicing reading music. That's how I think that students would have higher scores in math, because they're practicing it more.
So when Cassie and Kayla started teaching you the piano, do you think you became a better student?
Most certainly. And it's not necessarily just what you're doing, but you're also learning certain skills that it takes to focus,
Discipline, I would think, too.
Discipline, absolutely. How to perform.
Yeah.
And they do say, too, that there's a correlation with students with higher reading scores participate in music just in general. And that's not as strong of a thing that has shown results in studies. However, so I have a student that I took on that was kind of just learning to read words. And she started lessons in December, made so many improvements. It's just absolutely amazing. I ask her to read, what are we learning on this section? What is this song teaching us about today? So we read the section and she reads it for me. It's just absolutely amazing. But they have done studies that have shown that by participating in learning music, kindergartners tend to thrive a little bit quicker on distinguishing different sounds, with words long and short, consonants, vowels. So in that sense, it does make a lot of sense. But I think really, just making that brain work more often.
Well, there was a movement, and I'm not up on this because I haven't had any pregnant women around my house for a long time, but they used to play classical music. Like a woman was pregnant, they'd hold a radio or whatever to the unborn baby to listen to classical music that was supposed to make them
They also say that different kinds of music like that
do they still talk about that,
engage different parts of the brain.
Okay.
And it makes sense if you think about it. We maybe listen to different music when we're sad, or there's certain music we listen to when we're running.
Yeah.
For rhythm purposes. different music does different things to us, not just with the way that we feel, but with how we physically move. And with me, I've also noticed this was huge, like especially when I was in high school. I grew up with ADHD, and I wouldn't say that I suffered from ADHD. I don't think I suffered at all, but definitely a lot of a learning curve. So I think being able to listen to music would have been absolutely wonderful while I was in class. I think I would have focused a lot better. But I've always struggled to just sit and do a task and finish it without wandering off to do something else. Just focus has always been a struggle, but with the piano or music in general, I have no problem sitting there for hours, and it relaxes my mind, definitely. And it's been known to help with symptoms of a lot of mental health things, ADHD, anxiety, depression. Absolutely, there's a huge benefit there. And even with my own child, I've noticed the incredible amount of focus she has when she's sitting at the piano and practicing music.
That's great.
It has an amazing effect on the brain. And there's a lot of research out there on that, but I think in general that's why they say kids do well academically that are participating in music, and I definitely believe in that wholeheartedly.
It'd be great if the schools would take down all the barriers that keep some kids from participating in music in one way or the other, or there's money or time or...
Well, and just to have more of a focus on it, I thought it was incredible that they were going to bring it in with the rec department. It was really exciting, and I hope that we still follow through with that. Because I think we'll have a lot of participation. And I think a lot of people are also held up on cost. That can definitely be a thing. Now, I definitely didn't go into teaching lessons thinking I'm going to make a lot of money. No, like my day job, I really don't keep a lot of it. A lot of it will go back into materials and such. Definitely not in it to make money.
Yeah. Okay.
But, and most people will work with parents on cost if it's just not really working very
Especially
well.
if you're real interested in it yourself and you see
and
someone that has potential, you'll work with them even if you have to pay them to come, because it's just the kind of...
And back to the having a piano in your home thing, you can find a lot of free pianos. Oftentimes they need repairs. Repairs are very expensive, and people that repair the pianos or tune the pianos are far and few in between. There's not very many.
Not many tuners
it
anymore
gets expensive.
either, is it?
No, there are not very many. So I know of two.
Two tuners?
Yeah.
From this area?
From this area, yeah. But there was also an option. I teach my lessons on an electric piano. Still has the 88 keys and all 3 pedals. It actually has a lot of different things you can do with it that are really cool. And that's pretty sufficient for teaching lessons on. And I practice on that too. I have an acoustic piano that needs repair in my home. So I don't play on that right now, but the electric pianos are typically around $1,000 that you would spend on it. So a little bit hefty in price, but it's 80 pounds. So very easy to move, very versatile. You can take it places if you're someone that wants to go perform at an event. You can easily have that piano.
So let's say
and it comes apart fairly easily.
So let's say we wanted to have you down in the park and play for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and people could come down and sit in their chair and listen. We could do that. You're mobile.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is a little bit different sometimes on the type of stuff or material that I will play on my electric versus like the grand piano that I get to play on at Von Maur. It's just an absolutely beautiful piano. Maybe want to be as aggressive on the electric keys because they can break. They can certainly break.
Farmers Day owns an electric piano that we use during the talent show and everything. It's down there it's stored away, but it's down there all summer, so she wouldn't have to break it.
There you go.
It's the one that the contestants use, and so it would be, I'm sure, a high quality piano. So.
All right.
I'm amazed, honestly, that I tried this Von Maur thing because I'm not much of a performer. I never really have been.
Yeah.
I certainly have sisters that are.
Yeah.
But
So do you have a beer glass on there for tips or anything? Or?
No, but I have gotten a tip.
Yeah. One tip.
So I had a wonderful gentleman buy me. We have like a display of flowers near the piano. He bought me a bouquet of flowers.
Wasn't that nice?
Yeah.
And in the same day, I had a guy give me is 10,000 wons, Korean money. So I think that was almost $7.
Okay.
It adds up to an American
Yeah.
money, $6.48.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was very nice.
Well, sure.
But no,
Can you?
don't have
So
a
you
tip jar.
you can't put a tip jar there, but I'm already gonna let you.
Well, I suppose then they might pay me differently if I had one.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I would do it for a hobby, definitely.
All right.
It's hard to find time, but
Well, that's the thing. Though. Remember the mail. You need to get the mail out.
yep, gotta get
Yeah.
the mail delivered.
Yes.
That's right. Well, Courtney Frush, thank you for
Thank
coming
you so
in.
much.
Thanks for
tonight.
having
Thank
me.
you so
Yes.
much.
That's great.
We're back. Thanks to Courtney Frush for being on tonight. Dale, as always, has some neat stuff. He's got Jesup news for us. I've got a couple things that I want to talk about today.
Yes.
The day that we record is the anniversary of the end of the Vietnam War.
Yep.
So you have something that you'd like to talk about with this being the anniversary day.
Well, it's hard to know what to say, but I just went through and found some stats because it's 50 years ago. That's a long time. And then the first was in 1952. In 1958, it was the first American soldier to die in Vietnam. So from 58 to 75, 1975. So that's a long stretch there where we were involved in what was basically a civil war. And somehow or other, there's more than somehow or other, but you can read all kinds of books about how we got ensnared in that whole thing. But it said 8.7 million Americans served in Vietnam. And it was interesting reading this one article, and this is online, so who knows. But in the 2020 census, they figured there was 1 point something million Vietnam veterans still alive. But there were over 3 million on the census form said that they had been in Vietnam. And so there's a lot of people out there that were claiming to be Vietnam veterans that weren't Vietnam veterans. And I've been on other sites where they talk about posers, people that say they were in the military that really weren't.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like in America, we have a lot of questions that we ask people that we are suspicious of.
Right.
But anyway, 8.7 million Americans served, 58,220 died in Vietnam. 115,000 Iowans served, and 868 of them died. I knew, two kids that I went to high school with are among those 868, and my wife has a cousin that was killed in Vietnam also. So those are the three that I know.
Right.
That if you go to the wall and make a rubbing, there are three people there. I've never heard of anyone that I served with, or like in boot camp with, or anything like that was killed. And there's been an article about a man named Darwin Judge. He's from Marshalltown, and he went in. He was just 19 years old, and he was killed on April 29th, 1975, which was the last day, the last official day of the war. And so he was trying to, if you're old enough to remember, they were trying to get all these Vietnamese trying to get the Americans out of the country, and also trying to get all the Vietnamese they could that had been helped the Americans either by being in the South Korean army or by serving as an interpreter or whatever. And a lot of those people that had worked with the Americans were in some really rough treatment then after the Americans left. And so the average age of those killed was 23.1 years. 12 were only 17 years old that were killed. 61% of those killed were 21 or younger. Of those, 11,465 were younger than 20 years of age. So they never even got started with their lives. They were teenagers. And so you had teenagers fighting this war that shouldn't have been fought. And so they've been talking about the draft, and I don't know, we had the draft ever since World War II up until the 1970s. The way it worked is that when you turned 18, you had to register at your county seat, and they would classify you. And so it's like if you were physically, you only had one arm, or you were blind, or some physical ailment, you were 4F. But if you were primed and ready to go, you were 1A, And so when you got that 1A draft card, you knew that, you weren't long for this. The thing, and I've run across this twice, but people who told me how they had dodged the draft. And the way it worked is, if they called you and say, your name is up, your draft board calls you, you need to go, you need to report, you get a card. It would say, greetings from the President of the United States.
Right.
And if you somehow or other got yourself exempted by a doctor's whatever, it didn't just go, then the next guy up got called. And so I always wanted to say, especially this one guy, that someone may have died because you finagled out. Someone else had to take that slot, but they didn't just forget it. Someone else had to take that slot. And so that's the way it worked. And so it's much better, I think, having an all-volunteer, as long as they can keep the numbers up. And I don't, we're never going to need, like in a 1 million-man army in Europe and another 1 million men fighting in the Pacific, and those kind of wars are never going to happen again. And so it's more technological and that sort of thing. So it always has got me how these 19, 18-year-old kids were the ones that fought that war. It didn't have to be, because it started with a lie, basically, by Johnson that we were, attacked in the Tonkin Gulf and this sort of thing. And if it's interesting, go back and look at how many presidents lied to us and what their lies were over the years. And it's a common thing. So anyway, this is the 50th anniversary. So if you know an old Vietnam veteran, I give him a pat on the head or something, because actually look at, there's very few Korean War veterans left. And so then the Vietnam veterans are the next massive group to die off, where they start counting them down to there's 20 left, and there's 10 left, and this sort of thing. And so that's coming up. So anyway, it's kind of an emotional time. And because it's 50 years, they are talking about it. But
Dale, can I ask you a question? You were drafted?
No, I had a 1A draft card. I had no sweetheart that would have a baby for me. I wasn't able to go to college.
Right.
And so I enlisted. I thought I'd rather control my own destiny rather than just go in the Army with the herd. And so I enlisted for 4 years.
So if you were drafted, you were taken into the Army.
You were drafted traditionally in the Army, but then right towards the end of 1965, the Marine Corps started taking draftees. And there are a lot of fun stories that Marines will tell about Marine recruiters being at the draft board and saying, you really want to go in the Army? And they go, oh, no. I said, well, here, come with me. And then the kid ended up in the Marine Corps, So, but the Marines did have to start drafting. And the Marines did not like to draft, but they had to start because they were required to have so many people. And at one time they said if you were in the Marines, you were either in Vietnam, on your way home from Vietnam, or on your way back to Vietnam. That's because they needed X number of troops. And the Marine Corps has always been a small service. And so they did start drafting. And drafting was like a 2-year enlistment. There's quite an article about him in a recent Des Moines Register that if you're interested in, they have, there's a scholarship in his name in Marshalltown still to this day, and he's well remembered in the town. But he had a chance to be like an embassy guard. I think it was somewhere in Europe or go to Saigon, and he chose to go. He wanted to go where he could help the most people, is what his relatives say. So but yeah, just kind of the prototypical nice Iowa kid, 19 years old, goes and unfortunately he got killed, and to be killed on the last day of the war. Like in World War I, it was the 11th month, the 11th day, the 11th hour, the 11th minute, and so somebody thinks that's a real neat way to do it or whatever. But suppose you got shot, 10 minutes before, why can't they say, okay, now's a good time, let's get the word out. But
well, and we used to talk about this in world history a little bit. Just because the clock says the war is over doesn't mean the guy that's sitting there and lost his best friend isn't angry and he's going to stop shooting.
We're used to word being instantaneous. We can communicate with someone around the world in a matter of split second, I guess. But in those days, a lot slower.
Yeah.
And well, you figure those was it the Civil War? Those slaves in Texas. It was 2 years after the war was over before they realized that they had been freed by Lincoln. It was just so it's always a tragedy and that so many of them were young. A war fought by teenagers. Where if we look at the history now, realistically, we had no business being there. It was not. But they were so afraid of the communists that they just went crazy, and so
it was. Yeah, it was. They were talking to the helicopter helicopter pilot that flew. NPR was talking to the helicopter pilot that flew the American ambassador out of Saigon, and he said, I didn't like the results of Vietnam and what was happening, especially that last day, but I value the reason we were there.
Yeah. Well, that ambassador showed a lot of courage. I mean, he stayed to the bitter end.
Yeah,
He tried to get everybody else out before he went, and so he showed a lot of courage, and they got the flag. That was a big deal. They got.
That pilot had to lie to him to get him out.
Yeah, I read that article. I read an article about that where, he had to tell him that the president wanted him, right?
Yeah.
And the president had ordered him to come and get him. So.
This is Steve Brown Arts Center Podcast Network. An update to a story I told, about 6 months ago.
Okay.
And it is about a young lady named, her name was Julianne Kropotki.
Okay. Easy for you to say.
Yeah, it is. I struggle with it with Joe Smith's name. But we talked about her a little bit. She's a young lady that fell out of the sky 2 miles and lived.
Oh, okay.
So remember it was 1971, Flight 508 shattered over the Amazon River. A 17-year-old survived a fall that killed everyone else. Used gas to burn maggots from her wounds. Crossed crocodile waters with only candy for food. Her survival hinged on one rule that defied every expert's handbook. It started as a routine flight. Lanza Flight 508 left Lima, Peru on December 24th, Christmas Eve, 1971. I always found it interesting. It was on Christmas Eve. 92 people were aboard, including 17-year-old Julianne and her mother. 40 minutes in, they hit severe weather. Lightning struck the aircraft, stealing their fate. The plane broke apart at 21,000 feet. Julianne was ejected while strapped to her seat. She fell 2 miles through the sky, crashing through the Amazon tree canopy. The jungle foliage slowed her descent just enough. What happened next defies explanation. Julianne woke up on a Christmas day with severe injuries, broken collarbone, deep arm gash, eye damage, and a severe concussion. She survived a fall that should have killed her instantly, yet somehow she lived. 91 people died in that crash. Julianne searched for her mother but found no one. Experts say to stay with a wreckage after a crash. Many people die after a car accident if they leave the car accident.
Yeah.
Rescuers search flight paths and debris is visible from above, but something told her to break the rule. Julianne had grown up differently. Her parents were German zoologists running a research station in Peru. While other kids played indoors, she learned survival from her scientist parents. Her father taught her one rule that would save her life. If lost in the jungle, follow water downstream. This contradicted standard survival protocols. With only candy found in the wreckage, she began her journey through one of the Earth's deadliest environments. Her scientific upbringing would be tested like never before. Each day brought new threats. Rivers she had to swim across, constant rainfall, relentless insects, venomous creatures. She collected rainwater from leaves to stay hydrated in the heat. By day 4, disaster struck. The gash in her arm became infected with maggots. She felt them moving beneath her skin. Without medicine and with infection spreading, Julianne remembered something from her childhood. This memory would be the difference between life and death. On day 9, she found an abandoned canoe with gasoline. That's unique, an abandoned canoe with gasoline.
Yeah.
Recalling her father's technique for treating animals, she poured fuel directly onto her infected arm. I counted 35 maggots as they wriggled out of her arm, she claimed. This makeshift treatment likely saved her life. Nights brought psychological torment. Alone in the darkness, surrounded by predator sounds, she later admitted to hallucinating from exhaustion. Yet each morning she forced herself downstream, even as her strength faded. Her knowledge kept her alive when the equipment couldn't. On day 11, Julianne found a lumber camp. Workers were stunned to see this ghostly figure emerge from the jungle. They took her by boat to the nearest town. She had walked 40 miles through that terrain.
Wow.
Yeah. Try to walk 40 miles. Just walk 40 miles,
Yeah.
let alone 40 miles through a jungle.
Yeah, with the rivers and and the bugs. I think the bugs would get you.
Her ordeal was finally over. While 14 others initially had survived.
Oh, is that right?
The crash all died waiting to be rescued.
So she made the right choice.
Yep. By trusting her father's wisdom instead, Julianne saved herself. Years later, she reflected, I had no choice but to walk out. It was walk or die. Some rules are meant to be broke.
Yeah.
That's from an author on X, the former Twitter, Michael Jeffcoat wrote that article. A neat story. That those lone survivor stories always just interest me. Just hard to live with things like that. But what do you have for Jesup news, Dale?
Well, we got a few things going on this week. Though May the 6th is the high school spring concert, which is always kind of fun to hear the bands and the chorus and all the stuff they've been working on all year. On May the 5th, there's a track and field at Independence for the boys, and then one at Appleton and Parkersburg for the girls, so they're still running. And there's the golf conference meet, it's for the boys, and that's at, it's versus Appleton and Parkersburg at Pleasant Ridge. And a Pleasant Ridge golf course, is that in Waterloo?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So it's at Pleasant Ridge, but they're playing, golfing against Appleton and Parkersburg. And then boys and girls high school conference meet is track and field, and that's multiple schools, that's at Jesup on May the 8th. And then golf again, May the 9th, at the girls at Grundy Center. Baseball practice, I noticed, baseball and softball practice every night after school, starting in May. So that's always good. That's always good. And they're working on those fields up there. I don't know how that's all going to work, but they're going to do a lot of work. I don't know if you ever noticed how far it is from home plate to the backstop.
Yeah.
If you were a catcher, you would notice that.
Yeah.
And I was talking with Sparky DeRoe, and he remembered when they were building that field, they were trying to find dimensions. He said Larry Baldwin, the only dimensions he could find were for Yankee Stadium. And so that diamond was built with the same distances as Yankee Stadium. And so there's that huge area. And I know I was a catcher, so if you're a catcher, you look at that sort of thing, how far you're going to have to run to get all the pass balls and wild pitches and everything. And it's a long way compared to most. I've never seen any that are farther that I could ever think of. So they're going to change that. They're going to shorten that down a little bit with this construction they're doing. And also, if you ever notice when outfielders are running out in right field, all of what's kind of, you can see their waist and all you can see is their head pretty much, because the ground settled out there.
Yep.
So they're going to fill all that in and even that out. And so he said a lot of players from the opposing team it was a real home field advantage because they would not realize what a big drop off that was when they were running after a fly ball, almost like falling into a hole. And so there's a lot of work going to be doing up there. And the smaller diamonds that the kids play on, and if you notice, the snack bar is there, and home plate is kind of around the circle, but then the fourth diamond, home plate, is way out, and that's the outfield.
Yes,
and so they're going to turn that diamond around so they're all the same, I guess.
Oh, really?
Yes, yeah. That's the plan. And so it's like a $2 million project. I mean, it's an expensive project. And so anyway, that's going to be going on. So I don't know how all the timing is going to work on that up there or anything, but it'll be interesting to see how it works. The library, still Monday, Wednesday, Friday, had the exercise group at 8 o'clock. On May the 5th, the Books and Brews. The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang is the book they're talking about at, was Allerton Brewing?
Yeah, Allerton Brewing and Independence.
Yeah.
Yep.
Tuesday, the card players are at 1 o'clock. And at May the 7th at 6 o'clock, there's a senior citizen housing meeting. And to tell you the truth, I do not know what that's about. It's old people talking about housing, I guess, but I'm not sure just what's going on there.
And where's that at?
At the library, in the community room there, called the Senior Citizen Housing Meeting.
I wonder who's running that meeting.
I don't know. I just was looking up this afternoon, and I never got down to the library to talk to them about
You know,
it.
I mean, you have to go to that, Dale. What day is May 7th?
May 7th. Well, it should be it should be Wednesday. Then we can.
What time is that?
6 o'clock.
Okay, May 7th. That's right during our little adventure here.
Yeah. And May the 8th, 8 a.m. they have fun and play time. 10:30 is their story time. 1:30 is the puppy story time. And at 6 is the library friends, and the friends of the library meet once a month or so. And everyone is invited. If you're interested in the library, they'd love to have you come to the meeting. This is a sure sign of spring. On May the 10th, which I believe is Saturday, they're going to have a plant swap, where if you have a lot that you have, if you buy a package of seeds and you don't use all of them, you can, they're still good the next year. Or if you have like you started a bunch of different plants and you find you don't need all that you've got going, you can come down and swap with somebody else in this. So it's called a plant swap.
So you have to have something to swap, or can I go there and just buy something?
I think whatever you wanted, you could do, Jim. So
wow, it's sort of like it in my house.
May the 26th is Memorial Day, and there'll be a program as usual out at the Cedar Crest Cemetery at 10:15. And there'll be a short program, and then the Legion will be there to fire the volley. And then June the 1st, the Lions Club is having their car and bike cruise, and they have the crew. You can look at the cars; they're all lined up on Young Street, and then they do the car cruise, and they have the beating up of the old car with the sledgehammers and ball bats and this sort of thing, and they do everything but set it on fire, I think. And then they have the burnout, which is the part I always hate. I hate that rubber burning. But they have a lot of trophies. It's supposed to be bigger and better than ever. And so that's in the early afternoon. You can start coming down and see the cars. And I think it's over by 6 o'clock if they try to keep it halfway short. And
Who is the driving force behind that, Dale?
That's the Lions Club. And George Steinbrand's name is always on the advertising they put out as a guy to call. So I think George is probably a big force behind it. But it's a fundraiser for the Lions Club that they do. And so... I see the Scouts are getting active this past weekend. They had a hamburger feed on Friday and pancakes on Saturday morning, and so...
Terrible time to go on a diet, Dale.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. It really is. They're trying to kill us. The Steve Brown Art Center got the Independent Student Art Show on May the 5th at M's Coffee. And M's Coffee is sure nice. They've given us a lot of wall space and been real good.
They've
led
been
the
wonderful.
show there. And it's open during the regular hours of business. Go ahead.
We are doing our podcast from there in May, later in May.
No, you're on? Okay.
Yes.
All right. And May the 18th, a Musicians Jam session from 2 to 2:30. And as I understand, they don't have a venue yet, or they're not sure where that's going to be at.
What is the date on that again?
May 18th.
Yeah, we're going to do that at the pavilion down in the park.
Yeah. Because I was thinking,
Land of Corn Park.
I thought it'd be very interesting to go see that.
Please come on down.
I would love to. So, and then May 26th, the Artists Collaborative meeting at the American Lutheran Church is scheduled again.
Because May 26th is Memorial Day.
Oh, that's true.
We are canceling it for the month.
Okay.
And we will start it again the fourth Wednesday of June.
Okay.
The fourth Monday of June. The fourth Monday of June. And we're going to have that in the pavilion.
Okay.
As well.
I should have recognized that. And then June 21st is the Steve Brown Art Center mini art show.
Oh, I'm so excited
in the
about
gazebo,
that.
And I've already talked to an artist. He makes they're wooden, and they're only about that big, but they're like Christmas ornament, Christmas bells, and Christmas stars, this sort of thing. And he seemed more than agreeable to let me display some of those. And so they're really very neat. I don't know how he does it. But they're very attractive, but they are made out of wood.
Oh, cool.
And so I thought they're small, and it'd be something a little different than what, like it wouldn't be a drawing or a painting or anything. So we have a few of his pieces that we put on our Christmas tree. I asked if he had any land. Well, he says, I have 100 or something that I put on my Christmas tree every year. I said, well, do you have any others that you would get up, open your Christmas box? Oh, yeah, he was like, so I hope that ends up working out for him.
And you can show as many as you want to the artists out there.
So I told him, even if he had 5 or 6, we could string them together somehow or whatever. I don't know, but so that's kind of the Jesup news that I have. They're working on the Veterans Park down there, but I think it'll be next year is a big birthday, which it's what 250 years.
250
years next
Yeah.
year, and so we're in the works of getting a replica of the Vietnam Wall, the same one we had 25 years ago or whatever. We're working on getting that here, and there's another museum display kind of thing, a military, and we have American flags. We want to make an avenue of flags, like from 6th Street here all the way out to the cemetery.
Right.
Going to put those up, and so we got a lot of plans for next year to help celebrate that 250 years.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
that'll be pretty neat. And so Alan Wright will be 90 years old in June.
90 years
90
old.
years old.
Wow.
And actually, he still plows snow, but the insurance on his tractors and everything has gone really, really up for next year. And they come due in April. He decided to get out of the snow plowing end of things. He said it didn't snow enough this year to make it worthwhile. And so I said, well, are you going to sell your tractors in? Oh no, I never sell anything. So he'll still have his tractors, but no snow to plow. So
I would sure love to have Alan on this podcast sometime.
well, if you get him talking, he knows an awful lot about Jesup. I mean,
Yeah.
He's lived here his whole life, and I always accuse him of being to every Farmer's Day that we've ever had, which is over 100 of them, but he hasn't been. And then he has a car that's over 100 years old that's still dry. He still drives it around town, and I asked him if it's a one owner, and he doesn't like that either. If you're old, you should embrace it. And nobody loves Jesup more than he does. He loves everything he can do for Jesup. He would do. And I remember the first years I was in town. I would work for him in the summer. And one year we had a bad windstorm, and he was on the cemetery board at that time. And we spent the whole day out at the cemetery picking up fallen limbs, and a lot of trees are blown down and this sort of thing. And pretty neat guy. So
yes, he is. Yes, he
a long
is.
time. So. Okay, that's about all the Jesup stuff I have. So.
All right. Well, thank you, Dale. This is Steve Brown Arts Center Podcast Network. A few other things. Don't forget to check out our 24-hour Mustang camera sponsored by Joe's Pizza in Independence. That's been working famously. Blake, knock on wood. I check that out every day. Even it might be for 30 seconds or it might be for 10 minutes. I, put it on my TV and just watch it.
Yeah.
It's clear. It's incredibly clear. I don't know why I expected the camera to be dirty, but it's not.
Blake goes down and polishes that lens every day, I think, on his
Okay.
way to work. So.
All right. Don't forget. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Our next artist in residence will be the Big Brass Band. And we had them in 4 concerts this year. One in Aurora, one in Jesup, and one in Raleigh. And we are working at the 4th one, which will be in Ragbri toward Fairbank.
Yeah.
Toward Fairbank, and we had to take a call during this broadcast and talk to a person about that venue, actually. So remember, we need the audience to help us meet artists all the time. Although, like Courtney, artists are introducing themselves more and more lately, and that's working out so well. If you have news or would like to sponsor us, email us at jim@stevebrownartcenter.org or call us at 319-290-0241 and leave a message. Such a pleasure to be on here with Dale and Blake. Every Wednesday we record, and every Monday it comes out to you. And thanks to our listeners, we're so fortunate to have probably 100 and 150 listeners every week, and that amazes me, Dale, that people would want to listen to us.
I mean, really, and not all of them are our relatives, are they? I mean, some are complete strangers. But Courtney said she listens to it every Monday.
Yes.
I thought, well, that's really neat, So
It is.
Again, I'm always amazed, but I enjoy doing it. Even if nobody listens, I think it's fun just to hang out with you guys every Wednesday. It's kind of. I learn a lot and I have a few laughs. It's fun. We need more fun in our life. You live longer.
We do.
If you laugh every day, you'll have some fun.
You'll
live a lot longer. So
we do. We have a listener that listens every Monday. She texts me every Monday and talks about the show. And she is in Iowa City Hospital right now. She just had surgery and she's going through a little bit of a battle, and and we're thinking about her, and we look forward to seeing her home, and I look forward to going out to breakfast with her and her husband. So get better, and I'm Jim Gillespie with co-host Dale Rueber and producer Blake Tempus. As always, thanks to Kelly C. Haas. Thanks to the audience for bringing these stray dogs into your life, and remember this, Katie, each day is about little victories.